Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Okay, I've hit the button. Today is September the 24th in the year 2018. Some of you are driving to work. Some of you are driving home from work. And some of you are just on the treadmill jogging along. I met a guy that ran on the treadmill for 24 hours. Crazy. Anyways, the reason we're having this show today, we're recording this just a few days earlier. The reason we're having this show today is because a lot of people will already know, but many, many people won't, that our friend and buddy and early listener and supporter of the show, Stewart Sterling, passed away on September the 16th. September the 16th. Sunday, September the 16th. So it seemed like the logical thing to do would be to have everybody, as many people on as we could that are regulars, and let's talk about Stewart and everything that he meant to us, because he meant a lot to all of us. We all spent a lot of time with him, and I thought we would just go from there. So who would like to start? Anybody? I'll start. I'll tell this story. This is a story because this involves Tony Cook and Stewart Sterling, a former F1 ace. I believe he won Monaco in '81. Earlier today, Thomas Gazier said he won Le Mans, but he never won Le Mans. He had car trouble several times. Okay, so we go to, and when we're in Kansas City, we decide we're all going to go to a baseball game. About 12 of us went to a Kansas City Royals baseball game. And this is me uncensored. I'm going to tell this, and Tony, if I hurt your feelings in advance, I apologize. But I feel I have to tell the story this way because otherwise it won't have the same effect.
Please go right ahead.
So anyways, we go to this baseball game. Who rode with us, Tony? It was you, me, and Joe.
We had Joe Cummings.
That was there.
Yeah, I think that was it. Was there? Yeah, four of us, I think, yeah.
Four of us.
Stewart. Yeah.
Was Stewart with us? He was, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
That's right. He rode with us. It was you, me, Joe Cummings, and Stewart. And
wait, no. Oh, you mean driving to the game? No,
yeah.
Sorry. I drove.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, who else was with us then?
I also drove, so,
Yeah.
must have been 3 cars.
There was 3 cars, and Chris got lost early on. That's right, Chris, you went a different way. So anyways, we get to the game, and we go inside, and we work our way around, all the way around to our seats, and we're sitting down, and before the game starts, I turn around, and there's Stewart sitting there with a hat on that was like 2 sizes too small. And I'm like,
no, wait. He didn't have a hat. That was the whole point. We were in that blistering Midwest sun, and it's like, buddy, you're going to be like a lobster. Yeah. There was no hat originally.
Oh, okay. So then, then you went and bought him a hat.
That's why, yeah. It's like first time it was food, it's like I'm getting that guy a hat.
Okay. Well, there were other people without hats. How come you didn't buy other people hats?
Did you have a hat?
I had a hat. I looked after myself. Joe, didn't have a hat, did you?
I had a hat.
No, but I arrived late.
The interesting thing about that is Stewart brought us all hats from Alaska.
That's
true. I think he gave somebody his hat, truthfully.
Oh, is that what happened?
Perhaps.
Yeah. So anyways, sometime in the early innings, I think it was before the game started, was it not, Tony?
I think so, yeah. I was about to say it was before you need, let's see, I got to count the trips on the things you wanted. Pretzels, funnel cakes. I don't remember. So this was maybe my first trip to the concession stand with that looks good, go get me one of those.
Yeah. So anyway, so you come back and you bought him a hat and you bought him a fitted hat that was like 2 sizes too small. And I remember turning around, seeing him wearing this fitted hat, thinking to myself, Well, how stupid is that? Who would go buy this guy a fitted hat that was when you don't even know the size of his head? And I was about to do something. I was about to interject and correct the situation and say, give me that hat. I'll go get you a better hat. And then just as quickly I realized Stewart didn't care. I was like, he didn't care. He was just as happy he looked great. Was wearing this hat that was like 2 sizes too small. And he was just as happy as could be. And that pretty much describes Stewart to me anyways. Nothing really seemed to bother him. He would always roll with the punches and be happy to do whatever was happening. And, I mean, that just was the way he always was. Like, I never saw him being any other way than that. So anyways.
And in my defense, I always just buy hats at like Walmart or Dollar General, and a fitted hat was a new concept to me. Plus none of them were camouflage colored, what I'm used to seeing where I buy hats. So yeah, I know that there are fitted hats. So it was a learning experience.
Well, yeah, and then he was happy to have it. Then I was talking to him like 3 or 4 or 5 days later on Skype, and I said, what about that hat? What was the deal with that? And he says, oh, it's great. He says, I got it sitting on my trophy shelf already. He was thrilled with it.
Isn't that neat?
Well, yeah. And it was like, I learned a lesson right there. I got, it's like the guy and it's like when he came to the first picnic, his flights got all screwed up like yours did, Joe, and you were coming to Kansas City, and he didn't care. Because does anybody remember he flew out, he got there, his flights were delayed, and he got there like at 4 a.m. for our first barbecue and just drove out and hung out and waited for us. And then I think that night he was flying out at some crazy time as well.
Wasn't it like 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning to go back?
Yeah.
It was like a ridiculous time. I think we all looked at him like, you're nuts. What are you going to do for that amount of time?
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
and it just, nothing seemed, and just nothing seemed to bother him ever. Mm-hmm. He's just an easy guy to be around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I remember about that picnic is when we took the group photo, if you look, I'm standing right next to Stewart, and I'm just standing there kind of, doing a little my thing. And here's Stewart with that dime over the top of my head. And we get done taking that picture, and I sit down and I was like, I'm like, holy cow, Stewart. He goes, wait till you see the picture. And I'm sitting there going, and I went right to that. When I heard the news, I went right to that picture and I started laughing. I'm like, you know what? You have to laugh. You have to laugh. It's a sad situation. It sucks. It sucks beyond belief. But if all of us know how he is/was, and the last thing he'd want us to do is be upset.
Yeah.
Like you said, Lionel, I've never met a guy that was more carefree about stuff. It just maybe Kevin Marks, but
yeah, like I talked to his wife last night and for about an hour, and she said she rarely ever saw him in a bad mood. He'd get quiet or he'd chill out sometimes, but being in a bad mood just was not really his thing. And I mean, we only knew him for a short time.
Yeah.
So Lionel, since you just mentioned you talked to his wife, do you want to give everybody listening a brief overview of what happened? Because I have had a lot of people ask me what happened, and I didn't really feel like it was my place to describe it, since it was just hearsay as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to describe it on the air, other than
okay,
he had a massive stroke.
Yeah, I think that's adequate. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it originally happened, they felt like he was going to recover, and then it got progressively worse. I think we'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay. That's actually something I didn't know. So
yeah, like at first it seemed like it was recoverable, and then there are, I don't want to talk about what happened after that, because it just got progressively worse.
sounds like at least he made it to the hospital.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, see, I didn't know. I didn't know if he was alone, if he was
No,
sudden. I didn't know. I didn't know any of that.
No,
So.
he wasn't alone. He was at home. He was getting ready for. Oh well, his wife was getting ready. She was about to leave, and she heard him upstairs. And then there was a crash, and she ran up, and you pretty much figure out what happened after that.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So he wasn't alone, and there you go. I don't think we need to get into that too much.
So I have a Stewart story since we. So unfortunately, I didn't get to meet Stewart at the picnic. Matter of fact, I haven't been to the picnic yet. Just it hasn't worked out yet. Hopefully next year. So Stewart needed a ride from the airport when he arrived. It was like about 5:30 in the afternoon. I said, "Oh, no problem. I'll be there by then, so I'll come by and pick you up." And so I showed up about 5:30, right there, and he's like, "Oh, perfect." So I pick him up, and he is drunk off his keister. Well, it turns out Stewart had gotten upgraded to first class, and evidently some stewardess, flight attendant. Sorry, I thought it was 1970s there for a minute. Some flight attendant had taken liking to Stewart and just brought him one drink after another. And what could he do? Say no? No, he didn't consent her. So
that would be rude.
So anyway, Tony, who was with you, Tony? It was you and.
I had just picked up Peter Borchard's, and we met at that barbecue place
Peter
south of the airport.
Tony, to enjoy Stewart in a fairly inebriated state. So then I also had the pleasure of dropping him off the airport at 4 a.m. so he could get his flight back to Alaska. And he was, I hope he got just as drunk going home as he did coming, but who knows? He evidently had to like immediately after he got home.
So when you guys went out to dinner, did you just keep pouring it in, or was he? Because I remember you guys talking about it.
Oh, and then we went to the liquor store.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so we get to the liquor store and found a reasonable liquor store. It was I don't know if it was the cheapest one in the Kansas City area, but it was a good sized one. And so Stewart's running around this liquor store with a shopping cart like a kid in Toys R Us with a bottomless credit card, because he's like, "Oh my God, look how cheap the prices are!" Because usually liquor in Missouri, I think we were still in Missouri at that point, is a third of what it costs in Alaska. So he was like going like crazy. So not only was he drunk, but he was well on his way to having a very good week. And I believe I didn't bring very much of his liquor home, so I think he made a lot of margaritas.
You made a lot of margaritas. When I got there, when did I get there? On Sunday afternoon. And I went in there and I opened the fridge looking for a drink, and there was like water and 14 bottles of tequila.
Actually, the only time I've ever seen him upset was Thursday night before the train show, and we were sitting around drinking his margaritas, and that news of that thing in Seattle came out.
Oh yeah.
And we're all there, and he goes, "Well, that's gonna screw my flight home up."
Oh yeah, that was the guy that stole the plane in Seattle.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
The thing I remember about that dinner that first night was it what was it, Chris? Was it Friday or Saturday? It was Saturday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Saturday. Yeah, I drove up on a Saturday and picked him up.
And of course, Stewart's been on this plane from Alaska forever, with all these different interchanges. And again, he's the type of guy that, that flight attendant befriended him and probably overserved him, but he was in good spirits. But he's sitting next to me, and I think, he was always saying, "Well, what are we doing tomorrow? Because we don't have anything going till Sunday." And it's like, tomorrow is Sunday. This is Saturday. I don't know how many times it was like, you've been on a plane for like 18 hours. That was Friday into Saturday. Okay, well then what are we doing tomorrow? Because we don't have anything till Sunday. Tomorrow is Sunday.
There's he has on his Facebook page like a ton of photos.
Yeah.
Like just a ton of photos.
You mean from the NMRA?
No, just
convention.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of our photos for sure.
Yeah, he definitely won the prize for uploading the most photos.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and there's
yeah,
there's a great
Got my big camera out yet.
there's a great picture here of him sitting at the game beside Bruce Kelly with his hat 2 sizes too small and his beer and his hot dog. He just had a great smile.
Yeah, that's the smile.
Yeah.
He just always looked happy. He was one of those guys. He was just like, I mean, everybody for the whole week had a great time. We all had a great time. I mean, he was just, I remember when he came to the first barbecue, it was like, seriously? You're coming all the way from Alaska? And like David Start and his brothers have come both years, and they drive from New Jersey, which is really cool. But when a guy says to you, well, I'm coming, and you're kind of going, but you live in Alaska. Like, I remember the first thing I said to him is, oh, are you on vacation somewhere? No. I just want to come. Like, that's...
Oh, yeah, when I pulled up to the first barbecue last year, I didn't know Stewart was coming until maybe, like that morning when I actually saw a post from him. And I pulled up to the barbecue, and, once I got out of the car and got everything unloaded, all of a sudden I turned around and there he is, and I'm like, oh my God, Stewart Sterling from Alaska is here. And it was like from that point forward at the barbecue, it was like our little event here just got elevated to the next level because he came all the way from Alaska. And then Bill Brillinger and his wife came down
from Winnipeg. Yep.
And then, David Start and his brother, walked in from New Jersey. And, within a very short period of time, you're standing there going, this event is truly special. These people came great distances just to hang out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, everything you went to do, you'd be like, but Stewart came from Alaska.
He came from Alaska. I mean, there's no excuse. It's like there's no excuse anymore. And it's like, well, Stewart came from Alaska. What's your excuse?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't that like the running thing? Every time somebody would say something, somebody'd say, "Did you come from Alaska?" No.
And it was that night so then we decided the bunch of us were still there and we were going to go to dinner. And we left you in charge because you are the resident connoisseur of restaurants and all things fine like that, and fine cuisine. That's what I should say.
Cuisine.
Yes. And so you were trying to find some place what's the population of Rochelle, like 5,000 or something?
Maybe a little bit bigger. It's a big small town.
It's a big small town. Is that what that is? Oh, is that what that looks like? Out in the middle, 80 miles west of Chicago? Oh.
Yeah, the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So, first place we went was to the airport.
Because the airport had a grill that got great reviews on Yelp, and when we looked at the menu, it basically had something for everybody.
Yeah.
So it would please all tastes. But the part that we didn't know that wasn't advertised was there was some airport or airplane fly-in convention going on.
And there was the only restaurant that everybody went to in town. So
apparently.
So in the big small town, everybody was at the airport in the restaurant.
Well, that was considered one of the better restaurants in town. There were all the typical, chain fast food restaurants.
Yeah. So anyway, and Stewart had ridden with me. I mean, it was like, the thing about the podcast is when you meet somebody for the first time, you're not meeting them. You're just like, oh, hey, how are you? Mm-hmm. Right? It's like it's like Morgan, when we picked you up at the airport in Kansas City, it's like you get in the car and it's like, hey, how are you?
Yeah, black sedan pulls up, someone I've never met gets out, takes my bag, and then I get in without questioning it. Everything my mom told me not to do.
Yeah.
You put on your sunglasses and go, let's ride.
Yeah. Yep. So then Stewart and I were riding together to this airport, and I was driving. So we get to the airport, and we decide, okay, we're not going to eat here. So Stewart had that gleam in his eye. So then, Kevin, you pulled out and waited on the road for us, and then I saw I could drive across a field.
Right.
So I did that, and Stewart thought that was hilarious because I just drove across this big grassy field, and we pulled up. So then we got in front of you, and we were going somewhere. And the problem with this airport was it was one strip. It was, I guess they could probably land corporate jets there. But the east end of the runway started about 13 inches from the road. So now we're in front and we're driving down the road, and I'm kind of like, I'm not driving quickly and I'm not driving slowly. And as we get to where the runway is, we look to the right, and here's this single-engine Cessna coming in, and Stewart turns to me and he says, "You either need to speed up or slow down."
Uh,
And the thing, like, I bet you, I don't know, you were behind us, Kevin. I bet it wasn't.
Yeah, I was watching the whole thing, and it was quite hilarious because I couldn't hear what you were saying, but I could see all the hand gestures in the car, and that was almost just as entertaining.
Yeah, the plane couldn't have been more than 20, 30 feet in the air when it went over.
Yeah.
If I thought for sure we were going to get hit by a wheel.
Yeah, and the pilot of the plane's probably going, "What the hell are they doing there? Do they not know this is going on?" Because we were probably the only people who were there who had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, apparently in Rochelle, Illinois, you yield to the airplanes.
Exactly.
Honest to God. I think isn't there actually a sign there that said, "Watch for airplanes" or something?
I think there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the place to be. But fortunately, we found another restaurant in downtown Rochelle that also got good reviews on Yelp, and we returned to that same place 2 times this year for the barbecue this year. So that is now dubbed the official AML restaurant of Rochelle, Illinois.
Yeah, what's it called? The Rack or something?
The Rack Bar and Grill.
Like RACK?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that night, that first night, that barbecue, we went, and Stewart and I ended up sitting beside each other, and we're looking at the menu, and we kind of turned to each other and go, "You want to share a pizza?" And it's like, you can't get over the fact that, you have this podcast, and all these people that you meet for the first time are so easygoing to get along with. It's like, I don't know. Somebody else say something. Because I'm not happy. I am not happy. Let's put it that way. I'm not happy about this at all.
No, none of us are.
Yeah, nobody should be.
No.
It's not a happy event. We lost one of us, and part of this podcast is all part of the healing process. And someone who Stewart just wasn't. All listeners are important, but Stewart wasn't just a passive listener. He was actively involved, and as we were reviewing the photos the other day that are on his page, the thing that stood out the most was wherever Stewart was, he was always in the middle of everything. Mm-hmm. He literally was in the middle, whether it was a big group or at a rail fanning event or at the train show. He was always in the middle, and man, did he take a lot of great pictures.
Yeah, like he took tons and tons of pictures that were...
I remember on Thursday after you guys went rail fanning in the morning, we were sitting up at that where the tables were by the on the balcony there at the hotel, and he pulled his phone out and he's showing the picture of the Amtrak train, going fast, and he was all excited about how clear the picture was, and he goes and enlarged the locomotive, and it was just crystal clear, and he was so happy, had that big smile on his face, and showing that picture off to me, and that's one of the things that I remember, that smile. That's the biggie right there. He was always smiling.
Well, that rail fan trip was pretty funny in the morning because, first of all, Chris and I were riding together, and Shane took us off the road on the map. That was the first funny thing. We get there, and Stewart walks like a half mile down the road to set up his position from everyone else. We're like, "Where'd Stewart go?" And we see this little dot down there. He's just waving at us and taking a picture. And then turn around after it's all said and done. And I mean, Gordy had his tripod blown over because the trains go so fast through there. But when it all said and done, Stewart's sitting down there. He had a little handle for his cell phone, and he took all his stills with his cell phone. And he was videoing with his with his SLR, and it's like, man, the guy takes photos like he drinks, two-fisting it.
Oh, that is awesome.
He was just an interesting guy, and it was so interesting that he had that job working for UPS driving that. I'll never forget when I started to realize, in the early days, that he was listening to the podcast at night while he was driving through Alaska, and I was thinking, this is a big deal. Like, I didn't want to be I didn't want this to be this important, but now it's important. And then Morgan, you started writing in, and you're listening to it while you're at night, where protecting the border and between Mexico and the United States. And I'm thinking, these two guys are like listening to this.
Yeah, we had a couple conversations about that too between him and me.
Did you?
Via messengers a couple times, like, so what were you doing, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
How far did you drive, that kind of So yeah, we had a couple conversations, just him and me, because the two guys who were up all night from the crew.
Yeah, exactly.
Odd hours. He knew I was awake, and I'd occasionally get a message from him.
Yeah, I before we recorded this, then I re-listened to the episode where we interviewed him the first time, and I remember just that's the first time we had talked to him, and what a great guy. He was all kind of excited that we were talking to him and telling us his tales of flying the highway in his bobsled in the winter, and then the other thing, he was involved in the restoration of the locomotive there. So he had a lot of interesting things he was working on.
Yeah, 557, I think it is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How did I sound in that interview, Bruce?
You sounded marvelous.
Oh, that's good.
I'll let you know when I listen to it tonight when I go back to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This I found out during a training on my Friday, so I've been off the last 2 days. So
how did everybody feel when they heard it? How about that for
I was shocked. I'd only ever talked to him on via Skype in the interview and never met him, but I was shocked when you fired off that message.
Yeah, I know. His wife sent me a message on Messenger, and here's a great picture when you guys went to John Atchison's.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he's standing in the middle. He's standing between Morgan and Peter Borschitz.
Yeah, and John had mini Stewart on the layout because there was a little UPS facility there.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like going around. We're doing the explore, the layout, taking pictures and everything, so that we won't be necessarily rail fanning while we're operating. And I yell at the top of my lungs, "I found Stewart Sterling!" And he's like, "No shit." No.
Do you guys remember how excited he was to get the new quote-unquote moose guard on the front of his truck?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When he got the new truck, yes.
When he got the new truck, and they put like 6-inch or 8-inch round tube all the way around it. He was. I think
all
he
right,
talked
that's the one group
minutes.
that's happy. The moose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because wasn't he didn't we at one point figure he was responsible for like 30% of the moose deaths in Alaska last winter or something?
I think so, yeah.
He had been taking a check from animal control at the fishing game.
He had taken out 2 already this year. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he had 3 last year. So yeah.
He was whacking them pretty good. He took
I just remember show up on Facebook with just an F-bomb and a picture of his moose guard.
Yeah.
Like, really, Stewart? Another one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you'll never be able to pass a UPS truck again without thinking of him. That's for doggone
No.
sure.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's
One pulled into my neighborhood on my way home after I found out the news the other day. And it was like, there he is.
Yeah.
So,
he just had a ball. I mean, I'm looking at all his photos. So when his wife sent me a message, I was going to finish that story. I thought at first, she says, "Oh, hi, Lionel." I went, "Oh, hi, Kathy." And she's got bad news for you. And then the conversation went on a little bit, and I thought, okay, this is some guy from Nigeria. The next thing he's going to say, is, send me $1,500. So I said to her, "You're going to have to tell me something about Stewart that somebody else wouldn't know, or just some brief thing, and she said, "Well, it's a Stewart Sterling sighting," because I used to take pictures of the UPS trucks and say, "Stewart Sterling sighting" wherever I was, and post.
Well, that became a running gag amongst all of us, Lionel.
Yeah, he liked all that stuff.
His wife was in on the joke, huh?
Yeah, and she said every time one of the pictures would show up, she'd say, "Come on, look at this," and it was just some indiscriminate UPS truck, and I'd say Stewart Sterling sighting. So, Joe, you were telling me a story the other day about when you first got there on Sunday, about how him and Peter Borchert dragged you into doing the road show.
Yeah. Stewart and Peter were the first two that I ran into on the first Sunday of the convention. And it was, to reference Andy Dorsch's concept of first date jitters, there were none there. And within a couple of minutes, both Peter and Stewart and I had hit it off like old long lost pals. And quite literally a couple of minutes after that, they were both twisting my arm, as old pals do,
right,
to sign up for the same session, the same operations roadshow session that they were signed up for the next day. So of course I acquiesced and I signed up, and boy, I'm glad I did, because that was a fun time. And one of the things that I noticed, mostly right then and there, but I picked up on it, but I kept noticing it throughout the week, was with Stewart. His mind was never, 1,000 miles away. He was always present and accounted for, as far as, being like everybody else has said, like being in the middle of things. And that was, yes, of course, he was the requisite, he was a good guy. He had a great sense of humor and he was fun to talk to, but that was probably the quality that I most admired about him, was that, because so many people are there, but not there.
Yeah.
And that was never the case with Stewart. Like, you could say something and you would assume that he wasn't listening, and boom, he'd answer you right back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really admire that in a person. And he had that in spades.
No, he was the first guy I think I started picking on when I started the podcast, because he would started sending in these pictures of his UPS truck. Like, he drove from Anchorage, Alaska, halfway to Fairbanks, and met another UPS truck coming the other way. And I believe it was like 180 miles one way. Like, he would drive like just over 350 miles a night.
Yeah.
And through all kinds of weather. And obviously out there at 3 o'clock in the morning, halfway between Anchorage and Fairbanks, there's not a lot of traffic.
No.
It's not
just moose.
He did comment on how lonely it was, and about the only excitement he had the one time watching the carload of fishermen take out the guardrail, because they'd been up all night and fell asleep at the wheel.
That's right. Yeah.
Thankfully, nobody was seriously hurt, but he got home a bit later, because he said he used to get home maybe around 7 a.m. after his shift.
Yeah, and I started calling him Stewart Sterling, former F1 ace, because he had the name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the interview that got mixed up a couple of times. We had a good chuckle over that.
Did it? Like, how many times? I saw how many times I'd say Sterling Stewart.
No, just calling him Sterling.
Oh yeah. I did that. I did that on a regular basis too.
Yeah.
And started calling him former F1 ace Stewart Sterling, and then he got his layout design sig shirt. You had to have a shirt to be on the tour. It had, you got it monogrammed. You had it as former F1 ace. And when we were at the dinner, he was wearing some shirt that he'd made that said former F1 ace, some t-shirt.
Yeah, he had a t-shirt. He had a t-shirt made that said Stewart Sterling, former F1 ace.
I remember that,
which was completely awesome.
I thought that was so cool. That's funny when you kind of get a nickname or something like that, and then it, like when I was in high school, Cooker, for some reason, from my last name was, and like I had license plates that said that for a while. It's neat when someone kind of gives you that nickname and then you kind of take it on and like that. I thought it was awesome that he had the shirts that said that too. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, we were all talking about for the next time around, everyone doing that.
Yeah.
Getting their AML nickname and their super fan number.
Or next time we all wear shirts that say Stewart Sterling, former F1 ace.
There you go.
Oh, that's a
too.
good idea.
I was thinking about making that the next T-shirt. AML, home of Stewart Sterling, former F1 ace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first. He was so early on in the process, and it meant something to him, like you, Morgan.
Yeah.
And Lionel, didn't he have of the T-shirts? He had to have one of the best and most complete. And as a collector, it means a lot to me. He had all those AML. He's got more AML gear than I think anybody other than you.
Yeah, I think he had shirts that I didn't even recognize.
Go through his personal Facebook. Almost every photo's an AML T-shirt.
Yeah, I know.
Even when it's not AML related.
He loved the podcast. It made a real connection with him, and his wife said he liked being called, former F1 ace and all that stuff. And it was just me goofing around, just whatever spit out of my mouth at the time.
I hope that I just hope that as I get older, I can become like that. I think life would be so much easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really honestly do.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to get pretty high strung and pretty wound up about certain things and
Oh, really?
Yeah, you guys never realize that?
No. We're shocked to hear that.
Yeah. So I mean, I just hope that I just hope that if I'm a half like him when I get older, I'll be a very happy man.
He was the ultimate duck. I mean,
you betcha.
Calm exterior, and we never ever saw the legs turning. I'm sure they did occasionally, but we never ever saw it.
Yeah, that's an excellent way of putting it.
Yeah. So I mean,
I know. One of the first memories I had, or one of the things that made me feel good about, I don't know. I mean, everybody makes me feel good about the podcast. I mean, I think I try to make that clear that I appreciate everybody that listens and everybody that participates. I mean, it's just a really cool thing. And I constantly say now, it's not me, it's all of us, which I think is a really huge, important point. But on Saturday at the train show in Kansas City, and anyways, I was talking to somebody, I don't remember who it was. And Stewart walks up and he's got these two big bags of stuff that he's bought, and he kind of is looking at me. He says, "Oh man, look at I got all this stuff. I'm getting loaded down." And I just said, "Well, do you want to put it in my car?" "Yeah." And I just handed him the key. And it's like, it's like he just walked. I said, "What? My car's parked over in such and such a spot." And he walked off, and I thought, how cool is it that from the podcast you have people that, in all reality, I hadn't really spent that much time throughout my life with, a few days, maybe a total of 7 days. And it's like you give the guy your car key and say, "Yeah, go knock yourself out, put it wherever you want." I don't know why that just struck me that he was so easy. "You want to put this in my car?" "Sure." And you just hand him the key and off he goes and puts it in the car. And nothing was a big deal.
So, how I knew Stewart was a quality act is because he paid for his part of the Airbnb before Lionel did. So,
exactly.
Oh,
man, he was a kid in the candy store at that train show.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh.
I think he bought more than any of us.
Well, there was a reason why he put a suitcase in a suitcase.
Hey, I did too, and even I didn't buy that much.
His wife is very concerned about what to do with all this train stuff, and I wish I had an answer for her. I said, "Well, you can send it to us and we'll look after it," but she said the amount it would cost to ship it.
Yeah, it's insane to
yeah,
ship.
he really needs to find somebody in Anchorage, or she needs to find somebody in Anchorage to help out.
Is there a club in Anchorage? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
he
was
had been
he
part of a club up there. I don't know if it's still an ongoing thing, but Anchorage is a big enough town. I think he told me they had a hobby shop there, and I guess we could just make a road trip up there. And
yeah,
grab a shotgun and go up the Alcan Highway.
Yeah.
If
we're gonna do it, we better hurry.
Bellingham to go there.
We don't want to we could get snowed in if we wait very long.
True, that's true.
Make sure to bring a can of gas.
Yeah, at least.
There are some places to stop. He was from Alaska originally. Like his dad owned a camera store, I think.
They moved there when he was about 6 years old, and his dad did own a camera store.
Yeah, he was born in Phoenix. He said he lived in Phoenix for a while, and then they moved up to Alaska.
Oh, okay. All right.
His dad originally moved to Alaska because he was working on the pipeline.
Okay. And then his dad had the camera store.
And then there was a point where they left and came back also. I guess they got an RV, and he was like homeschooled out of an RV for a little while, and then they wound up back in Alaska. Except it was at a time probably they didn't even call it homeschooling. I don't know what they...
Yeah.
You call it probably the best learning experience you could have had.
Yeah.
I wish I could go on and on, but I don't know. All I can think of is it sucks. And I don't like telling anybody. I was talking to Bob Rusick today, and he's telling me he was going over to England and all that, and he was looking forward to seeing Peter and Gordy. And and as I'm looking at my phone, I'm thinking he doesn't know. And I'm thinking, well, I better tell him. So I sent him. Well, it's like Bruce. I called you, eh? Bruce Kelly.
You did. Yeah, it screwed up my day.
Well,
I was working and the first thought was when you called first in the middle of the day, I thought it was something about you, and I was worried about that, obviously. And then when you told me, I was, like I said, it was nothing to say. It's amazing that someone could come into your life and make a dent. That I found out, I had tears in my eyes. I mean, it's just. Well, I sat next to him at the baseball game, and it was like he looked like a little kid in the candy store. He really did.
Yeah, and this sounds to me, every time my brain starts to think it sounds selfish, and then I try not to say it or think it. But it's like we just spent a whole week with him, like we were just with him.
Yeah,
and then he's gone, and it's kind of like. Well, that sucks because we were just having so much. The thoughts that keep coming around, and of course, like I say, everybody's a huge part of the podcast, and I look forward to the years come ahead with everybody. But it's like now we have to do everything without Stewart.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's almost like it's going to be hard to not categorize the podcast as before Stewart died and after Stewart died in some ways. Because he's not part of the crew anymore.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop talking about Stewart when I'm doing the podcast.
Right?
He's really going to date the backlog of interviews.
I totally disagree with that. He is a part of the crew. He always will be.
Yeah.
He always will be. And the best way to memorialize him is to continue making the stupid UPS jokes and
and the moose jokes,
the F1 ace jokes, and I mean, he will never not be a part of this.
No, for sure.
I agree, Mike.
How many negatives could I use in one sentence?
You probably slip a couple more in there.
Yeah, but it's like why we don't have at least on the podcast we can continue on as if he's still with us.
Yeah.
Where I'd rather keep his memory alive and include him in everything as if he's still with us versus, well, I wish Stewart were here, kind of a thing. He is still here. He's in all of us. And, we can all take comfort and we can all use his spirit as motivation to continue our journey, together on the AML network and in our lives to, keep moving forward and use his memory as a reminder to, live in the moment, be present, take lots of pictures and laugh, which is what we all should be doing in life. And he will always be with us. He's never going to go away. And anyone who talks about him in past tense, I will yell at you. Or as Lionel says, I will beat you with the wet trout.
Shane's already said he's going to do it. I know I already have plans on doing it. But, when the time comes and I start building my layout, there's going to be a Sterling Avenue on there or a Sterling Road with a UPS truck on it.
Well, I'm seeing the billboard I'm working on.
I'm smack dab in the middle trying to get scenery done for mine, and I had that same thought.
I mean, I'm actually doing the same thing for, and Lionel knows this. I don't know if you guys, a bunch of, but I lost a very close, like a daughter to me, type of person here this last week also, and I'm planning on putting a junction and road signs on my layout that just say County Highway TL, State Highway 18. Those are her initials and how old she was. So, it's just, there's all sorts of ways to memorialize him. I mean, he's definitely never going to be forgotten. That's for doggone sure.
Well, my first purchase in Kansas City was a Dairy Queen kit, and they'll probably park a UPS truck at it.
Yeah.
You gotta get
Perfect.
the sign though. You've got to make that sign though. What did it say? It says, was it something like something
grill it
about
twice.
until Lionel starts screaming or something like that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the one that Peter Borchard has. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Rusick made it. Bob Rusick made it. That was a real sign too. Bob was telling me.
Yeah, I've seen those at Dairy Queen where they'll put like "scream until mommy stops the car" or something.
Yeah.
So I had my lawyers. I had my lawyers contact Dairy Queen and
scream until Lionel stops the party bus.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah, we all went to Dairy Queen. You know what? I'm going to be completely raw here, and I'm not going to. I think the podcast has been pretty much carry on, but it's like I hear what you guys are saying, but this just sucks. Like I get it. We're going to put stuff on our layouts, and we'll keep talking about them, but every time I try to think all that cliche kind of stuff, I think to myself, this just sucks.
Well, it does.
Well, yeah,
it
definitely stings a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 54, great guy. It's like, seriously? You know what? This would be the best way. I think Bruce Wilson has heard me say this before, maybe. I don't feel like being an adult. I don't feel like...
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel like...
Being an adult sucks. It's not as much fun as they thought.
Yeah, like I don't... With this particular situation, I don't feel like being an adult. I don't feel like, we're going to go on, we're going to keep his name. And it's like, yeah, we're going to do all that stuff. But it's like, I don't feel like it being an adult and going, well, that's what you do. It's like, no, it just sucks. like no matter how you...
The thing is it's okay to be pissed off, though, about it. It's okay to be pissed. It's okay to be mad. And anybody that would ever tell you that it's not is full of shit.
That's what I told Sacco the other day, because Sacco vented pretty hard on some of us, and he texted me shortly after. He's like, "Did I go overboard?" I'm like, "It's okay to be mad, man."
Yep.
Yeah.
And it just shows you never know. You never know. And I know I've said this before. Take your family and let them know that they mean something to you. You never know.
I mean, Lionel, you've said it how many times? You with what's going on with you and the cancer and everything else like that, you got to look at every single day as a new gift.
Oh yeah,
and you got to live it. You got to live it that way, And it's just because you're right. You guys, you're right, Bruce. You don't know.
Yeah, I guess for me, it just seems like it doesn't seem fair that Stewart had to be the one that makes us realize we got to live each day to it. It's like,
it's never fair when it's somebody you know.
Yeah.
Or, we just spent so much time with, or he was so easy to be around, or, I mean, he just added a lot. Like this podcast, like how many times I've said 1,000 times, I started it just to listen to the sound of my own voice. I had no grand plan. There was nothing other than Bruce Wilson, the mailboy knows. He knows there was nothing other than me just going, I wonder what this would be like.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you got some guy driving through the night in Alaska listening to it, and it's important to him.
And he's sending pictures.
Yeah, and it's important to him, and it's kind of like, really? Like, and if you now I'm going to make you feel even worse. If you feel bad now, wait till you hear this. So I was talking to his wife on the first time I No, it was it was the second time I talked to her. It was last night. I was coming home from Florida, so I called her once I got off the plane, and as I'm driving home, I talked to her for about an hour. So, after Stewart passed away, they had 2 dogs. And
I saw that today.
One of them was very ill, and she had to put down one of the dogs.
Oh no!
Jeez.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
2 days after Stewart passed away, it's like this poor woman had to make a lot of really hard decisions in a very short period of time. It's like, man, oh man. And I'm on the phone, and I'm like, I don't know what to say.
Now her world is most definitely rocked right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. This just sucks.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It sucks.
Yeah. It just sucks. It's like like I said, I don't want to, here I'm looking at pictures of working on the 5.5. He was just like one of those guys that just was like, the thing of it was, some people are in the room and you notice them when they come right in, and some people come into the room and after a while you're kind of going, wait a minute, I want to hang out with that guy. And that's the way Stewart reminded me of. Like, you're kind of like, I want to hang out with that guy.
That picture, the selfie he took on the party bus looking back to the back, I remember him trying to take that. It was right as the driver made a turn or something. It nearly launched him.
Yeah.
Oh, and it started out a video, too, or something like that.
But I saw that today, and I just started laughing. Just because I remembered what he had to go through to get that.
Here's a picture from June of 2017. 20 years of safe driving. He got a certificate from UPS for 20 years of safe driving. That's an accomplishment. When you're a commercial driver, and you get 20 years of safe driving, that's an accomplishment.
Well, and that was one of the things. What he did that, and was he still active with the Coast Guard?
I don't think he was still active.
Think it was. But when you first posted that, I had to read it about 3 or 4 times. Like, now what? Or what is Lionel saying? Or is this some kind of joke? Or what is it? It's like it didn't compute. And then my next thought was, oh my gosh, with his job, something must have happened job related. But it wasn't.
Well, we had talked about that a little. We had talked a little bit about his driving career, because I've driven in the past as well. And what's especially striking about the 20-year safety thing is the fact that when the day he walked into UPS, he didn't walk in with a truck driver's license. He walked in as a rank amateur, and they trained him how to drive a truck. So all of his truck driving experience was gleaned driving that trailer for UPS.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he had experience from day one.
There's a picture. He had a gold Trans Am, a 1980 turbo Trans Am.
Oh,
gold.
That was sweet.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm going to say right here, I did not like the gold one. I said that to him. You had gold? He says, yeah. What other color are you going to get? I said black. No,
black.
Gold.
Yeah. Black. Yeah.
Gold. You wouldn't have. That was one of those things when he showed me the picture and told me. It's like, Stewart is not the kind of guy you would imagine that had a Trans Am, Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. But he did. And then one of the first pictures I remember him, he was wearing an AML shirt, and he had a giant shrimp. Like they were shrimping, and he caught these gigantic shrimp. And
they're almost like lobster size.
I know.
Huge.
And here's something. I didn't realize shrimp swam.
Oh, jeez.
I thought they were just like on the bottom of I always wondered how they caught them, because I always figured they just were like on the bottom of the ocean walking along or something. I didn't realize they swam in groups looking for trouble. They swim in gangs. And there he is. Here's a picture of him holding a giant shrimp and wearing one of the AML shirts. Like you say, Tony, he had every piece of clothing that we ever offered. He had the hoodies, he had the shirts, he had everything. Has everybody said something, or this is a I'm not going to edit this very much. The only parts I'm going to edit out is when Mike's internet cut out. Come on. I think you do that on purpose.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't.
Here's a photo from when he was driving. Temp at Kashwitna River is minus 31 degrees Fahrenheit.
Jeez.
That's nippy.
Wow.
That was the other thing too. It wasn't like he had a big sleep. It wasn't like he had a tractor with a big sleeper cab.
No.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a regular tractor that had enough, had the 2 seats. And,
It was a day truck.
yeah, it was
a day cab.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're driving through the middle of, I often thought you're driving through the middle of the night in February in Alaska and it's 31 below Fahrenheit. And all you've got is this little, 4 foot by 3 foot area or 4 foot by 4 foot area to stay warm in. Like, man, oh man.
Well, there were a couple of photos on his feed where he actually got stuck on the highway, not because he was immobile, but there were vehicles behind him and in front of him that were both immobile, so he had nowhere to go.
Yeah. Then he took this cool picture he had this picture on the calendar. What was that? Alaska Railroad freight train and Moose Pass, and then he
he entered some
contest.
for the Alaska Railroad or Tourism Alaska, I believe.
Yeah. Those Northern Lights pictures were unbelievable.
Oh, they're spectacular.
Yeah.
I remember talking to him about the Northern Lights because that's something I've always wanted to see, and what I said was, is it really like that? Does it? I mean, the pictures just don't seem like that could be real if you've never seen them.
Yes.
And it was just fun to talk to him about that it's, he's like, yeah, it really is. And it's like, so you never know. And they just kind of come up and go away. And it's just wild,
Yeah. If you get right up north where they're going, it's, I've had the pleasure of being, working at Fort McMurray in, northern Alberta out in the middle of an oil sand mine. So there's your big light sink there because it's all dark, no light anywhere. And February, looking up and just seeing the massive stars and the Northern Lights just displaying. It's just, realize how insignificant you are in the grand scheme of things in the universe, but they are truly spectacular if you get displays like that.
How do you there's a picture here of just basically the cab and the for somebody's breathing into their microphone. Yeah, whoever's breathing, stop. Oh yeah. There's how do you get, I saved a picture that he took and it's only 65 kilobytes. How do you save a picture from Facebook in a bigger format, with more?
You can click on it and then download.
Down at the bottom there's an options and under that is a download.
Oh really? Okay, now you tell me. Thanks for finally telling me after all these times of asking. So what do I do?
Click on the picture.
Yeah, click on it and then kind of
Options.
scroll over until you see the text at the bottom. Yep, click on options.
Click,
download.
Download.
So because of Stewart, I've just learned something.
There you go.
Okay, now I downloaded this picture. I'm going to see how many. Why wouldn't you guys tell me this before?
Because we figured you might have known.
Yeah.
It was our little
there's our first problem.
Yeah, there you go. Smooth.
Yeah. We were just giggling behind your back.
Yeah.
Well, you were. We were trying to be serious, but you were acting up.
Well, I would just do it when nobody was looking.
Okay, so I saved exactly. So I saved there. I said exactly. I need to come up with something else.
Exactly.
Yeah. I saved it.
You got it?
Yeah. Instead of 65 kilobytes, it only went to 107.
Yeah.
Is that the best you're going to do?
Probably, yeah. Unless you get the original.
Right. Okay. But that's at least.
So Facebook does clip it to whatever the maximum is that they'll allow. A lot of people just really, the photos they upload are just silly as small as they are, but 105 sounds about right.
Yeah. Pictures. He was in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and he was the one he used his truck to haul the boat around.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
We're talking about that.
what kind of boat is it?
Yeah, it wouldn't be
It's like a
It would be
Zodiac.
one of those. Yeah, I don't think it was a blow up boat like a Zodiac. I think it was just a like outboard, fiberglass hull type thing.
Oh, okay. Now, do we have anything else we want to say? Yeah, so anyways, I'm going to talk to Peter Borchers because I know he wants to be part of this. So if anybody wants me, join me for that, but that'll be kind of... Oh, there's my favorite picture. This is my favorite picture. How can I share it with you guys? This is the one where he's holding a shrimp on his forearm, and he's wearing the Modeler's Life shirt. This is from May of 2016. So the podcast had only been going a year and a half, and that's when he sent in this picture, and I thought, so he already had the shirt, and he had the shrimp on his... I'm going to see if I can save this and send it to you guys so you know what picture I'm talking about. Oh, I'm going to...
You can drag it into the
Chat.
Well, I have to save it first.
Oh, okay.
For crying out loud. I should save it in big. I'm going to go to options because you guys have now just told me about this. I can't believe you guys have only just now told me about this. Is that how we're going to keep Stewart's memory alive? You guys are going to be nicer to me?
Sure.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, we can go in the other direction.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right, there. I got it in the chat.
You got it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a shrimp.
That's a prawn.
Yeah.
Isn't it
That's
a prawn?
not a shrimp.
That's
Well,
correct.
what's the difference?
The
That's
prawns
like
are
a
the
dog.
Yeah, looks like a giant cockroach.
Holy cow!
Yeah, they grow 'em big out there.
So what's the difference between shrimp and
Wow.
prawns?
the size. I
About
think.
about $1 a pound.
Yeah,
That's good.
depends what part of town you're in.
Is that it? It's just a different name because that irritates the
I
crap out
got
of me.
it here.
They're
Difference between a
shellfish,
prawn and-
different sizes.
Prawns have
I think-
claws on 3 of their 5 pairs of legs. Shrimp have 2 on 5 pairs of their legs. So
But they're
look
this-
at that.
Are we doing math now?
Yeah, run that
I
one.
think
Run.
somebody's working the
Okay.
Google.
Yeah, run
Fish
that.
math.
Run that.
Prawns have claws on 3 of their 5 pairs of legs. Shrimp have claws on 2 of their 5 pairs of legs.
So they're just nasty shrimp. How many claws on how many pairs of legs does Ostertag have?
And he has spoons.
Yeah, a spoon.
I have spoons.
Should we even bother? Should we even bother having the picnic anymore? Should we even bother doing anything
not?
anymore?
So,
We got to
so
go
since
to Tom's.
Peter's
We
making a
have to
special
do the
trip
picnic.
just to go,
Yeah.
I think we got to have it. And also, what would Tom say if we didn't show up in
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Robesodian,
You
Pennsylvania?
think I did all that legwork for us to stop having the damn pick?
Yeah, Tom
Well,
better.
there are no soggy burgers anymore.
Yeah, Tom better hope my mood improves by 2020.
I will give her a shot.
Or we will be pulling up with an army of RVs.
No, the picnic
Yeah.
is vital, and that needs to continue.
Yeah, I know. I just don't feel like being an adult. I don't feel like being a brave adult and saying, "Oh well, we'll just carry on and blah 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 blah." I just don't
Well,
feel.
then take a break.
Yeah, son, just press the
Take
pause
a break.
button for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, just press the pause button. You know what? No, nobody needs to give you permission to do that. You can do it. You can do it if you want.
What do you mean? I'm
You
not.
know?
Now you've lost me. I don't understand anything you ever say, Ostertag.
Why? Nobody needs to give you. If you don't feel like being an adult anymore, then just don't.
Oh yeah, yeah. But
One
people,
of the benefits
know-
of being a fully grown up adult is that every once in a while you don't have to be.
yeah, I know. Well, just on this particular subject, people.
Yeah, and that's why I'm drinking whiskey right now. So, got to do what you got to do.
All right. I suppose we should call it a day or something. I feel like I should I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say.
You don't have to say anything.
I thought you had a script.
Yeah.
No.
That's for the, oh, God.
Hey, just say you lost a great friend, you'll miss him. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's it, man. All right. Well, shall we go around the room? Does anybody want to say anything, or are we all just kind of... This is a...
I'll start.
Okay, go.
I'll start saying something. Stuart Sterling, thank you very much for being a part of my life.
Mm.
There you go.
Yep.
That's good. I like that. That's good.
Actually, probably I'll add to it. Still part. Was it
Still part.
still every
Yeah.
time I see a UPS truck, I'll think of him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thanks for being a big part of the podcast. That's for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I don't think this podcast really, conveys right now is just our deep appreciation and love for Stewart. I mean, we're all kind of in this somber mood, but I mean, holy cow, there's the impact that he's had in such a short period of time on all of our lives. I mean, just cannot be. It's hard to put into words and just can't be conveyed. We're just kind of, we're all sad right now, and that's okay. And I think, the next time we all chat and get together, something new will come out of it. And, the pain never goes away. You just kind of learn how learn to deal with it and get on with your life. And, whether it's Stewart or, a close family friend, like a Spoon went through, or, a parent, that memory is always there. And, we'll continue on, and we'll continue as if he's still with us.
Yeah. I think to Jim Lincoln's credit, when one of my dogs passed away a few years ago, he sent me this cool message saying, and it was from Dr. Zeus, "Don't be sad that it's over. Be glad that it happened."
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, would we rather
betcha.
not, we had a couple great years with Stewart, and, we're all better people because of it. And, that's the part that we should be celebrating. And, he'll always be there, and we'll make sure he's always there.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You got to not let the egg, the unhappiness take away. I think one of the things, the problem with emotions, the problem with getting old. Let me see if I can. The problem with getting old is your body gets old, your brain gets old, but your emotions never get old.
Mm.
Your emotions stay the same as they were when you were a kid, and it's like, it's like, man, oh man, he was such a, like you say, in 2 years we had such a good time, and he was always just there. Like everybody though, so many people that are part of the podcast are like that. So we got to figure out a way to end this puppy. Somebody come up with something intelligent.
Well,
Man, am I asking the wrong group?
Know that from experience.
No, I'm not saying goodbye. Not going to do it.
I like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Good.
I refuse to do that. He's right here.
Yeah.
He's here somewhere.
Yeah.
I can hear that margarita machine going right now.
It's not goodbyes till we meet again.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. I'm gonna stop now, I guess.
Well, I want to say one more thing. Our longevity, all of us, we're all going to get to that point. And I will say this, if you think we're having a whole lot of fun now doing this, just wait until we're all, together once again in, 20, 30, 40 years. we might get kicked out.
What's this might?
Oh yeah.
That's
Some of us have already all but been kicked out of things. So yeah, we're already there.
I'm basically a choir boy, so I don't know what you guys are talking about.
How's that working out?
So you're saying St. Peter's from Kansas City.
You should probably learn to sing first.
Yeah. All right, then we'll just stop.
Just stop. Yep.
I I'm almost. I don't think he ever won anything other than Monaco. I think he won Monaco in '83.
He came close in Le Mans, but I think the last lap he put her off of the gravel or the trap of the back corner there, and that was it.
So earlier it was 81, and I've heard you mention 79. So I'm pretty sure it was
the
an odd
records
year.
aren't clear.
Yeah.
The records aren't clear.
Well, the thing is, I seem to remember when he first came to America in 1987, he was doing the road course at Daytona. But I was a young kid, so I wasn't paying much attention.
That's right.
That's
For some reason, the
part about
F1
when
records
Lionel
for those
says that.
years are funny.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. Lionel says that every year the year changes
I know.
every single time.
I know. I've actually had people come up to me and say, you know, you don't. Which year was it? And it's like, I don't know.
And the thing is, I don't think he ever drove Monaco, because I've seen him run and he would have fallen before he got to his car.
That'd be Le Mans.
What a cool name. Oh, and that was the name and that's what I found out that he was Stewart Sterling the third.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we talked about his name when we were there at the place. I think the same night, the airplane thing. So basically, Stewart and Sterling were both family names, and so they both come right out of the Scottish royalty, the House of Stewart, the House of Sterling.
There you go.
And so Robert the Bruce, he was related to Robert the Bruce, and he's related to, of course, the Henry VIII and all those. And
all right, we're going to stop now because I'm going to talk to Peter Borchards as well, and he wants a turn, so that's cool.
Is he up right now or no?
Yeah, you got to call him now.
Yeah, I'm going to call him now because it's because it's 4:30 in the morning. It's 3:30 in the morning there.
Call him.
What time
He'll
is it in
appreciate
London?
that.
He won the German touring car championship at the Nürburgring in 1991. He was the only one with the 10-minute lap.
He won the Radio Shack 500 in 2012.
He won the Milwaukee Mile in 1976.
Nice. Yeah. Very nice.
He's the only person to ever win a Pikes Peak Challenge in a Toyota pickup truck. No, in 1974.
You mean in a day cab? In a day cab.
Yeah, in a day cab. All right, so now I'm talking with our old pal, Peter Borchards. Am I pronouncing that right? Is it Peter?
It's definitely Peter.
Okay.
Or Pete.
Do you prefer Pete or Peter?
I don't have a preference. Whatever people want to call me. I get called Pedro, Peter, Pete.
Pedro.
No. Yeah. Wife's family calls me Pedro or Ped.
See, you don't that you don't strike me as a Pedro. Not even close.
Well,
not even.
It's close enough. You know.
I
could pass as a Spaniard, I suppose. You know. Hey, Pedro.
Well, I could pass as a guy from Iowa, but I don't do it.
Yeah.
What sound does a moose make?
Oh, thud.
A thud. Yeah. There's a lot of that. Because I was thinking, okay, so we've done our first segment with all the guys, and then I didn't want to miss out on Peter, our buddy Peter, because you had a good time with Stewart, and I thought instead of doing the subway chime between the two segments, I'd do like a moose call.
Okay, right.
So I wondered what sound a moose made. Thud is good.
Yeah, no, there are plenty of YouTube clips of moose sounds.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get Pedro to send me one.
Yes.
So we did pretty good. We did that last night. Today is now Friday. I told everybody we're gonna broadcast this on September 24th, 2018. Because just over a week ago, our good buddy Stewart passed away. Our good buddy.
Yeah, very good buddy, I'd say. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So. I know you wanna have a chance to talk too, so that's what we're doing. It's just you and me though, so we're gonna have to kind of keep the conversation going.
I'm sure we can manage that. That's fine.
Are you sitting in your front lobby or beside Lucy's desk or out in your train?
I'm out in the train room at the moment. My mother's staying, so she's in the lounge with Lucy. So I thought it'd be best if I came out to the train room.
Do they get along?
I hope so.
Well, how long you been married to Lucy?
8 years, just over 8 years.
So have you been able to determine yet whether or not they get along?
Yeah, they get along fine.
Okay. I got a feeling Lucy gets along. It seems like she's pretty easygoing. Would that be true?
Yeah, she gets along with most people actually. Yeah, I haven't found anyone she hasn't.
She has that kind of face. The first time I met her, she just seems like I bet you she's just a nice person to hang around.
She is. Very nice person. I'm biased.
Ask her what she thinks of my face.
Okay. I'll report back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked all, and you'll hear it all, of course, but you haven't heard it yet. We talked about how he came all the way from Alaska for the first picnic, and I guess the first time you met him was in Kansas City, right?
That's the first time. I've spoken to him a few times on Skype, but that was the first time I'd met him in person.
That was one of the things I was thinking on the way over here to the studio. Is how cool how many times people will mention they've had conversations with this person and that person. Like people need to know I'm not involved. Once everybody hooks up, like I'm not involved in all the conversations or nothing.
Yeah, just contacting each other via Skype. About various things, and nothing to do with the podcast. Just conversations about model railroading or whatever.
Or whatever. It turns into a lot of whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, definitely whatever. Yeah.
And that's how Andy Dorsch ended up cutting me out of his group. His track planning group.
Yeah.
I just, and then Ostertag, they're talking about it one night, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what is this?
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love you, Andy. Look out for that tree. He probably sprayed his windshield with. I wonder what he drinks. What's your favorite drink of choice?
Me or Andy?
No, Andy's not here.
Oh, Andy's not here. Well, if it's alcoholic, it's red wine. If it's non-alcoholic, it's probably Coke Zero.
Okay, all right, I can accept that. And if it's Stewart, it's tequila.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You had
tequila margarita beer.
That night. What night was that? It was like Thursday or Friday night.
Yeah. And I think I've still got a hangover from then.
You were wearing sunglasses, and I was kidding you mercilessly about wearing your sunglasses in the house. And there was like 5 or 6 of us, and he kept pouring tequila or margaritas down your throat.
Margaritas, yeah.
See, and
I had 3 of his very large margaritas, and yeah. They were strong.
Yeah, and by that time I was a veteran, and I had got him down to where he cut them down for me.
Yes, no, I was a virgin to his margaritas. Yeah.
So, and you guys did the road show together.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. In fact, Joe. I don't know if Joe mentioned. I don't know if Joe was on the last one. Well, on the first segment. Joe Cummings, but yes. He had a quite interesting thing to say the other night. He said that Stewart and I were the first people he bumped into at the convention when he arrived, and he said sort of within seconds we both suckered him into signing up for the roadshow. This is within a few minutes of him arriving at the convention, and he said he just remembers that the first 2 people he met was Stewart and myself.
Yeah.
Stewart with his big grin, as usual.
Yeah.
And he just said that was one memory of the convention was that.
And Joe was saying that he was saying to me off air, I think it was like he's the thing he loved was he'd never met either of you guys.
Yeah.
And like immediately you 3 guys were like friends, and you guys were twisting his arm like old friends would, just saying, "Come on and do this."
Exactly.
And it made him that much more relaxed. It's amazing what we've done, and that's the thing that blows me away about this. It's like I was saying, like I'm just not happy. Like, I am not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not hiding it. I'm not happy, and I'm not hiding it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just ask my friends out here, and they'll say, exactly the same thing about me as well. They all know what happened. They all know my feelings about it, and yeah, it's something that really sucks. And it's especially when I suppose when something's unexpected. It's when if you know someone's ill or something like that, it's sort of almost helps numb the pain, because you're expecting it to happen. But when you suddenly just get a message out of the blue, and it's someone, a friend of yours who you've known for a while, and I've only met him, spent a week with him in the convention, but I say he was like an old friend.
Yeah,
and it was just completely unexpected. I mean, it just blew us all away.
Yeah, it was completely unexpected, and it was like I think the part that hurts the most is we had made the I don't know, 10 or 12 of us had such a great time together.
Yeah.
Like the thing we've talked about several times, Joe and I. I think Joe was the first one that mentioned it to me. He says, like you get to the end of a week when you're hanging out with 8 or 10 people, and by the end of the week you're being polite, but you're thinking, oh, this guy's bugging me or that guy's bugging me, and there was none of that.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I've been to 5 conventions before, and I know exactly what you mean. You spend a week with someone who you might have met there for the first time or something, and you get, you get to a while, this guy's on every tour, and you bump into each other, and it's just like, okay, enough now.
Yeah.
But it was none of that. I mean, it was literally, like you say, no first date jitters. It was literally like we've been friends forever.
Yeah.
And we all got along.
Yeah.
We didn't, have an argument with each other. A couple of minor disagreements about things, but it was light-hearted disagreements.
Yes.
But on the whole, it was just a group of guys having fun, a group of friends just having fun.
Yeah. And
that's literally what it felt like.
That's all it was. And it was like, like I remember, I don't know what day it was, but we ended up eating pizza someplace. Yeah. And we ended up at that long table, and that's where we met Ron Marsh, and we dragged him into the group.
Yeah.
It forcibly made him become part of our group. He didn't want to. He says, "Leave me alone," and we were dragging him in there. And we all just I remember at that point too. Like the other thing too is like, you could just say to somebody. I think on that day at that lunch, you were getting the pizza, and I was giving you the gears, and I just went and got the table, and it was like it was the best.
Yeah, it was definitely.
And then
I mean, even with Ron, I mean, just he's after that, every time we saw him, he hung around with us.
Yeah. And
I've been chatting to him. I've known him for a while through his YouTube channel, but never met him in person again. And it's like we got along so well, and we were chatting to him throughout the week.
Yeah.
And we got along with all of us, so it was great.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I said in the other segment, I said, I'm not going to be an adult. I'm just going to be pissed. Because I think the hardest part was that we were all just together. I guess, I mean, you have to look at that as a positive, because we all got to live that experience. We all have such great memories of him. And
you just have to look at the photographs that everyone has, shared.
Yeah.
Every photograph, Stewart had a huge grin on his face, and he was just loving it. He was enjoying it, and we're all enjoying his company as well.
Yeah.
So incredible memories that week.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, maybe it'll bring us all. Obviously, it will bring us all closer together. But I was saying now about how, when I got the message for his wife PM me on Facebook, and I'm like, at first I thought, the next thing I was going to see is, can you send me $2,500 to get out of jail?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, is this real? Like, and it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what you said at the end of that. I mean, obviously we can't say it without the goal horn, but that summed it all up. Exactly how we felt about what had happened.
Yeah.
4 words, 4 letters each. And that was exactly all our reactions, pretty much.
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah.
Utter shock.
Well, and that's what I wanted to talk about. I didn't make notes, and that's good. And look at that. Look at me. I remember. I wanted to talk to you about, because you had a unique experience with him, because you did those prototype tours.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was just you and him, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, there was who else was with us? Yeah, I think it was just the two of us. I don't know. No, I think Morgan was with us as well. I think.
I don't know.
Actually, I can't remember.
I don't.
But
think...
it was, no, definitely. I know it was the two of us, and it was. It was great. We spent about 4 hours. I think it was about 4 hours or so in total. I think.
And what tour?
Yeah, and it's had this.
What tour did you do?
It was the BNSF Argentine Yard and Midwest America. The rebuild facility. So we did a couple of the BNSF yards. We went through, did a bit of train watching as well, and then went to Mid America, just opposite the KCS yard. And yeah, it was a really nice time. We just hung around together and just had a good laugh on the bus, and then had a good time. Really, it was nice day spent. Half day spent on the tour.
Yeah.
And we were just chatting away like old mates.
That's the thing, because that was like on the Monday or the Tuesday, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was the Monday. I think it was the Monday. I think, yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. So you guys are, and like you say, just chat. I mean, that's the cool thing about the podcast. The coolest thing of all is I never imagined in a million years any of this was ever going to happen. Yeah. And the one thing I think to somebody said to me, if I'd never started the podcast, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Yeah. But if I'd never started the podcast, we wouldn't have had this conversation. So it's kind of like we would have missed out on it, except, I didn't really want to have it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But it's like at the convention. Joe said that we were the first two he saw. It's like, well, Stewart was the first guy I saw when I came up the stairs, up the escalator, and was looking around to see who else was around.
Right.
Yeah, he was the first, AML I saw up there.
Okay.
So we were sat chatting for a while, and then Joe came to join us, and a couple of other guys arrived, and so yeah, but that was that makes it even worse, I think, really. Say he was the first person I saw when I got there. Yeah. And of all the people, it would be him.
Yeah, and I mean, all week long, and I went to his Facebook page to start looking. And I mean, he took all kinds of photos of everybody else. There's he took, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 photos of the dinner we had. And there's pictures here of me talking to Scott Thornton and giving him a hard time. I mean, it's like, he was just like, now we got to make sure we take lots of pictures, because he took tons of pictures. Tons and tons of pictures.
Well, there's no harm in taking pictures. I mean, rather take too many than too few.
Oh, yeah. That's what.
And this is a perfect example of that. I mean, if you just look at the photographs that guys have sent, and if people hadn't been taking photographs, where would the memories be? We've got so many memories of all the different places we went to. There's at least 5 photographs with Stewart in them, which is great.
Yeah.
So we've got those memories, which is
So, I guess you found out when I posted it on the Facebook on our Facebook page.
That's right, I did, yeah. And it was, it wasn't long after I saw it. It was about 5 minutes. I thought it was sort of about 5 minutes after you posted it, I think.
Yeah, I bet you just about fell off your seat, eh?
Well, I had to read it about 3 times. The first thought, he's having a joke or something. I went down the comments, and then I saw Bruce's comment. It is true. He's on the phone to Stuart's wife at the moment. Yeah, it's like that when I read that, I thought, he's not. It's not a wind up. At first I thought it must be a wind up.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I saw that message. I thought, oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
it isn't.
First thing I did was get a hold of Bruce, and I said, you got to put something up there, because I'm not kidding you. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure, because I was. And then now you've talked to his wife via Messenger.
Yeah, I was just actually looking at it just now. I got a message from her just on Tuesday. Tuesday evening, or Tuesday evening our time, just saying, are you on the group with Lionel? I let Lionel know about Stewart today. Then I had quite a long conversation with her after that.
Yeah.
It's just, and she was just saying, I mean, the thing that got me with what she said is she said, I believe the Model Railroad Group became another branch of his family.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I was able to get out and enjoy so many things this year. The worst thing is I've lost not only my husband, I lost my best friend. I mean, that was the thing that's like, I read that, it's like, oh, great. I'm trying to keep things, keep things back here, and then she says that. It's like, oh, that says it all.
Well, and I keep when I'm when I'm talking to you now, and when I was talking to the other guys, I keep flipping through all his pictures, and here's the picture of us standing in front of our party bus, our limo bus, and I'm standing right beside him with my hand on his shoulder, and I'm like, fuck. Oh, there I said it. Oh well, hell with it. I'm leaving it in. I'm leaving it in. Like, what the hell? It's like it wasn't like you say. It wasn't. It was just like completely. And I understand everybody suffers from this thing. Everybody. We are not the only group of people that have lost a friend this way.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
But he was what I was saying too is, he was one of the first guys because he was so active early on. I was saying, how I started realizing, I told my son several times, I said, there's a guy that drives a UPS truck in the middle of the night listening to my podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and also the photographs he put up. I mean, he put some amazing photographs up of the, the aurora, and just those couple of ones with his truck. I mean, I've got one of them printed out actually in my train room, alongside a photo of him at the ball game, and I just put them up there along, underneath that baseball cap of quite a few of us have got, of the was Alaska Railroad 557, and he was a brilliant photographer as well. He took some amazing photographs.
Yeah.
And a lot of those he did while he was at work. He's driving up, halfway to Fairbanks, and he just pulls his truck over, takes a few photographs, and they're amazing. And he loved his job. He always said how he really enjoyed it. It wasn't a chore for him. He didn't mind doing the night shifts, and he loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a lot.
And he came to now I guess you're going to pick up the baton, because you're going to, last year from the picnic we had Stewart all the way. In the first year we had the picnic, we had Stewart all the way from Alaska. And next year we'll have you all the way from. Jeez, don't you go doing.
No, I'm not planning on doing anything like that. Don't worry. Well, not that you plan, but of course, I'll do my damnedest to make sure I'm there.
Yeah.
It's but it's just, as I say, it's when it's unexpected.
Yeah.
I've lost a couple of people recently, relatives, and you knew they were going because they've been ill for a long time, and so you expect it to happen, and you're prepared for it.
Yeah.
It's just when it's suddenly unprepared, it's just the worst thing.
Yeah, and especially when I was telling the story, and I'm trying not to repeat the stories, but I also decided for this particular podcast, I'm not trying that hard. Like, if I repeat stories, I apologize, folks, but I'm not in a good mood. So it's like,
yes, it's the drugs talking.
It's the
title.
It's the drugs talking. And what was I telling? Oh no, what was the story? I was going to tell a story, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was a good one.
It'll come back. Back.
There's so many of them.
No. It's just it really sucks.
It does. Like, it's one of those things where it's like you can't really come up with anything other than, let me see, let me give us a good description. Oh yeah, I know, it sucks.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. That sums it up.
I was glad that you talked to his wife Kathy, though. I think 3 or 4. Yeah. I think several of the guys have managed to converse with her.
Well, I think some guys contacted her, and some were contacted by her.
Yeah.
I know. I just got a message from her that same evening.
Right.
She just obviously saw my name on the list, and maybe she'd seen I'd had interactions with Stewart on Facebook or something like that, and she just contacted me.
The thing that got to me too was, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll say it another 1,000 times, is I started this strictly as something to do, hear my own voice, didn't think anybody would listen, and then I came up with former F1 ace, and she said he loved that, and he made his layout design sig shirt that was monogram former F1 ace.
Yeah.
And at the dinner he was wearing he had made a t-shirt that said Stewart Sterling, former F1 ace.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. That really tickled him. I mean, that was, he just, every time he heard that, he laughed.
I know, yeah. And he was the guy. He was the kind of guy. It was, I guess, the thing of it was he was, Bruce Kelly, and you were very supportive in the early days. And I haven't even bothered trying to name everybody because it's pointless. Mm. But he was very active early on, and it was just. I think the thing that for as far as the podcast goes, is I can't get over. This was the guy, like I said, Morgan was out there driving along on the border, but this was the first guy where I kind of went, this guy's out in the middle of the night and driving through the wilds of Alaska listening to us talk.
Yeah.
And it kind of started making it seem important.
Yes.
When I felt like
and sort of keeping him, sorry, yeah.
No, I was just going to say when I felt like, okay, I got to start putting him out regular, and it was important, because people were listening.
Yeah, and especially him, in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere by himself. It was almost like companionship for him, really, to listen to us, and especially when he got involved, and he heard himself or he heard his name mentioned and stuff. So it was quite good for him, I think, to just have that while he was driving.
Yeah, and I would and I would say, I would talk directly to him, or I would and I've been so appreciative of the fact that everybody has been allowed me to learn how to do this. Like apparently talking wasn't much I had to learn how to do. but like I've said 1,000 times, I'm not a professional. Like Lester Holt doesn't need to worry that I'm going to be doing the NBC News.
Yeah.
But you guys, allow me to just kind of have at it and make fun and jokes. And he was just, and it meant something to him. And now it's like, we're going to have to stop. I don't see any other way other than moaning and groaning, and like we're gonna, he'll always be a part of us.
Well, that's a given. Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, he's never going to be forgotten in this group at all.
No,
always going to be part of the group, and I think that says a lot about what he was like. Who he was as a person. Just this guy who was always funny. He was, always had this grin on his face. You never saw him in a bad mood. It was just constant, just, lifted the room up, really. If you wanted to feel better, you just went and have a chat with Stewart. Within seconds, you're laughing your head off. So.
I was saying how we were in the train show on Saturday, and he just I was talking to somebody. I don't remember who I was talking to, and he walks up to me, and he's got these 2 big bags of stuff, and he's just kind of staring at me. And he says, man, I'm getting loaded down here. And he's looking at me, and finally I went, do you want the keys to my car? And he went, yeah. And I just gave them to him, and it's and it's like, okay, we knew each other. We were staying in the same house together and all that. But it's like, I just gave him the keys to my car, and off he went. And I, told him where it was, and off he went. And I'm thinking, I wonder if he'll find it. And I wonder how long it'll take him. And sure enough, 10 minutes. And it was just... we will all, but the people that come after this, the people that come to the podcast after this, we will have to always learn how to convey that there's lots of great people. I mean, we've met so many great people.
Yeah. Everyone has got, everyone's got their own character and everything, it's everyone's individuals, and, you always find, certain people who are just, just that little step above, I think. Sort of always, everyone really gets along with, and everyone just, interacts with a lot better than some others.
Yeah. And
Stuart's one of them,
Yeah, and he was excited about building this layout, and then his wife was asking me what to do with his train stuff, and I'm thinking, it's in Alaska, so I mumbled. I always say something. You can count on me for 2 things. Number 1, I'm going to sleep in, and number 2, I'm going to say something stupid. So, I've talked to her on the phone now 2 or 3 times, and the first time was really hard because and I got a piece of news to tell you that's just going to make you feel really good too, and. So anyway, she started saying, I don't know what to do with all this train stuff. So I blurted out, well, your worst case scenario, but you'll box it up and you'll send it to us, and we'll make sure we sell it for proper amounts and get you the money back. And she said, well, it would cost more to ship it than what you could sell it for.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of went, oh yeah, right. So I don't even know I have no idea how to fix that problem.
Well, I think there's quite an easy solution. You remember the company he worked for?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they can do something about that.
Yeah, maybe that's.
I'm sure they'll be able to do something.
Yeah, that's probably.
He was one of the employees, and I think they're quite a good company looking after their own. So I think they will be able to work out something with them.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah.
Can't think why not.
That's not a bad point. And the other thing I told the other guys, you want to hear some really good news, and maybe you already know this because you've talked to her.
Mm-hmm.
But they had 2 dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 days after she had to make that unbelievable, difficult decision, she had to put down one of the dogs because it was so sick.
Oh, great. Right. Well, that's all she needs.
Yeah. And she's telling me this, and I'm like, you do know you're talking to Lionel, right? Like, limited intellectual Lionel, like, like I'm out, like I got nothing at this point. I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, this poor woman is like,
I know. Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Well, we've killed 30 minutes here having a good conversation. I like this microphone. This is better than the one I talked to you on the other day. Or this.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe it's the same microphone, but it's better on that computer.
Okay, it's the same microphone. Yeah, it's
much clearer on this computer.
Okay, which is surprising because it's in the train room and it's just an old Windows laptop I got from a client.
All right. Well, we'll try the other one too, but we'll.
Yeah.
Because
might be the acoustics actually. Because
yes,
the acoustics are different in the train room. That could be what it is.
And we need to more. This is pretty easy. Like it's just before 5 o'clock here, just before dinner for me, and it's just
before 10 o'clock here.
Yeah,
10 o'clock UK time. Yeah.
This is not this hard for us to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can keep us abreast of everything that's happening east of the Atlantic Ocean.
All right.
So
good.
Any last words, or just you want to just sit here and cry with me?
Well, I mean, I don't know what can you say really?
Yeah.
Apart from something that requires the goal horn.
Yeah.
But, it's like just it's as you've said. This just sucks.
Yeah.
Really.
I think this is going to suck 5 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to suck 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Like I don't ever see any point at which this particular event doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Because
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
All right. We're going to.
And yeah.
What?
I said I think I've just posted on one of the groups. So I think the top of my favorites in Skype is Stewart. It's not alphabetical. It's not. I don't know how Skype does it, but it's just at the top of the list is Stewart.
Yeah.
It's like great.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows?
So I have something to say about our friend Stewart Sterling and former F1 ace. I believe he won Monaco in '83. I've said plenty of times before, I started this podcast for no particular reason, other than it sounded like it might be fun. It would be cool to talk with other modelers about the hobby, but most importantly, it would give me a chance to listen to the sound of my own voice. That's all. Something to do, something new to try. There was no grand plan, no particular direction. It just sounded like fun. I didn't know if anybody would listen, and frankly didn't really care, because I was going to do it anyway. But it pretty quickly became evident that several people were listening. And not long after that, people started sending in emails and getting involved. Of course, Bruce Kelly, our #1 superfan, and the president of every model railroad club within 102 miles of Medford, Oregon, was an early supporter along with many others. So many others, in fact, there's just too many to mention. One of the earliest contributors was Stewart. His job with UPS was driving a tractor trailer halfway to Fairbanks, Alaska, from the terminal in Anchorage. Not long after he started listening, he started posting some beautiful photos of his truck. with the northern lights in the background. And it wasn't long until I began to realize he was passing the time driving through the night listening to this very podcast. Then I began to realize it was important to him. He'd tell me it was one of the highlights of his week when a new podcast was released. I told my son Peter several times there's some guy driving through the middle of the night somewhere in the wilds of Alaska listening to the podcast. As we got to know Stewart better, he would regale us with stories of dodging moose, how to chain the truck for better traction in the winter, and sliding down long snow-covered hills, pulling two 53-foot trailers. For some reason, and it really doesn't matter why, it was important to me. Stewart was out there in the middle of the night listening to our podcast, and I decided to start talking to him directly. We'd hit a slow spot or some silliness, and I'd say things like, "Maybe, Stewart, you might just want to pull that puppy over for a minute or two and just kind of gather your thoughts." Or, "Come on, you guys, straighten up. Stewart's out there driving through a blinding snowstorm, and he has to listen to this." I began to feel like Casey Kasem. This one goes out to a lonely trucker from Anchorage, Alaska. It was important to me. Really important. Some time later, Morgan Pavia, who works for the U.S. government as a Border Patrol agent in Yuma, Arizona, started writing in. He also worked the night shift as he drove along the border between Mexico and the United States, protecting his nation as best he could. Oftentimes I'd wonder how many times these two guys would be listening to the same podcast at the same time, just about as far away from each other as you could get in the United States. It was important to me, really important. In the summer of 2017, we had our first AML barbecue in Rochelle, Illinois. Stewart came all the way from Alaska just to hang out with us and watch trains. Let me repeat that just in case you missed it. He came all the way from Alaska just to hang out with us for an afternoon and watch trains. After that, we spent the rest of the day dodging single-engine Cessnas, eating pizza, and drinking beer. A few weeks ago, we shared a house together with Chris Atkins at the NMRA National Convention in Kansas City. Stewart introduced me to his version of margaritas, and we had plenty of opportunity to just sit around and talk. Later that week, a bunch of us went to a Kansas City Royals baseball game. It was the first time Stewart had ever been to a professional sporting event, and it turned out to be his last. I'll never forget how happy he looked sitting there wearing his 2 sizes too small hat that Tony had just purchased for him. That probably describes Stewart the best. It didn't matter if whatever he was doing was 2 sizes too small, or it didn't exactly fit. He was going to have fun regardless. And so here we are, forced to go on without Stewart. Oh sure, we can pull out all the old cliches. Keep going because that's the way he'd want it. Everything happens for a reason. And of course that oldie but a goodie, time heals all wounds. But it's important to me for everybody to know that those thoughts of Stewart driving through the night listening to us in the early days of this podcast really made a connection with me. It made me realize that this goofy idea was maybe really doing something worthwhile, and maybe even making a difference for some people. So thank you, Stewart Sterling, because you made this podcast important. And who would have ever guessed when this whole thing started, I'd have the opportunity to become friends with a former F1 ace. I think he won Monaco in '79.